I'm Lyn Fairly. Welcome back to Our Ventura TV. I have yet another amazing guest. I'd like to introduce to you Janice Feingold. Welcome to Our Ventura TV.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me to be with you today.
Well, of course. Now, Janice was graduated from UC Davis with a degree in child psychology and psychology, and then came to Northridge University to get a master's in accountancy.
Yes.
Passed the CPA exam, and then taught at Moore Park College for nearly 27 years accounting. Is that correct?
That is.
Now, she's a fine example of the type of person who would join the grand jury. And at this point, Janice Feingold happens to be the foreperson of our grand jury. Now, in the news, all over the nation, we hear quite a bit about the grand jury recently. But there's a huge difference between a criminal grand jury and a civil grand jury. Would you delineate that for us?
I'd be glad to, Lynn. We hear a lot in the newspapers about the criminal grand jury. The criminal grand jury is called by the district attorney on an as-needed basis for the purpose of determining if there's enough evidence to hold someone over for trial. And the service term for a criminal grand juror is fairly short. The civil grand jury, on the other hand, there's a selection process that we go through, and the commitment is for 1 full year. We serve 3 to 5 days a week for an entire year, anywhere from 15 to 35 hours per week, and beyond the first month of the year, generally we're working closer to 35 hours per week. So it is a big time commitment, but an extremely rewarding one at the same time.
Now, what are the type of people who make up the civil grand jury?
The civil grand jury is made up of people from all backgrounds. For petit jury service, which is when you're called to go and sit and see if you're put on as a trial juror, they use driver's license records and voting registration records to select those panels. But for the civil grand jury, we actually go through an application and screening process. So our application period is from early January through mid-April. People interested in serving complete an application. There's an interview process, interviewed by outgoing jurors as well as by a panel of judges. And then ultimately, the people who are selected to serve are literally names drawn out of a hat.
Well, I think that's so fair, really, really very fair. And so if you wanted to apply for the grand jury, that would be in January?
Yes, starting in early to mid-January. Applications can be obtained from Jury Services at the County of Ventura, or the grand jury has a website. It is linked to the County of Ventura website, so you can get to the website by either simply Googling Ventura County Grand Jury, or go to the county website and from the drop-down menu select Grand Jury. The application form is available there. You can print it, fill it out, and submit it.
I think that's wonderful. Now, I have a couple of things on the table here I want to share. Ventura County Grand Jury is a civil investigatory panel of 19 citizens only, so you don't have a deadlock in a vote, I guess.
No, never.
Created to serve as a voice of the people and a conscience of the community. I think that's remarkable that you're also the community conscience. Jurors are not appointed by politicians. They are volunteers who act as independent eyes and ears of the Ventura County residents. Sort of like a community watchdog, if you will. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. And most of the work that we do is work that is investigations that are initiated by public complaint. Throughout the year, we receive complaints from the public concerning issues relating to county, city, and other local government entities. We consider those complaints, whether it is within our jurisdiction, to pursue the issue. And if it is, we then also, of course, have to look at our resources in terms of time and personnel to decide which specific complaints we will pursue. But at the end of our investigation, we ultimately issue a report that gives the facts that we became aware of, the findings or conclusions that we draw from those facts, and then making recommendations to government entities as to how they might improve operations, make better use of taxpayer money, better serve the taxpayers of the
So
county.
you're never involved in crime?
We are not involved in crime. In fact,
clear
if we
again.
receive a complaint that seems to have a criminal element to it, we would refer that immediately to the district attorney's office for pursuit.
Well, some of the things it says the grand jury is authorized to do is investigate complaints of government mismanagement, verify that public funds are properly accounted for and legally spent, inspect conditions of all detention centers and jails,
Yes.
inquire into charges of willful misconduct by public officials or employees. So, off the top of your head, can you think of an example of a complaint you might pursue?
Well, I can do that in relationship to some of our past reports. A couple of years ago, everyone is well aware of the Camarillo Springs fire, and we received a complaint relating to why firefighting air assets were not deployed sooner in order to limit the spread of the fire. And so we conducted an investigation of that issue and ultimately issued a report outlining what some of the issues were and how the county might resolve those issues. We made some specific recommendations.
In fact, I think I have that report. This is an example, I brought it as show and tell, of how much work these people do in 1 year. This is a lot of work for volunteers. It's a Ventura County Grand Jury Final Report 2013-2014. And some of the list of reports are, look like you took care of campgrounds, park hosts, water rates, campaign finances, temporary food facilities, public charter school processes, claim process, crosswalk alerts, firefighting air assets in the as you stated, the Camarillo Spring Fire, healthcare records, processes and procedures, City of Ventura Hillside grading permits. Oh, that was a hoo-ha.
Some are more exciting than others.
Exciting. More park zoning compliance, tracking and reporting, detention facilities, inspections, grand jury committees and support functions, and a whole bunch more. That's all one for 19 people. 1 year's worth of work. Now, these reports are available to the public.
Yes, they are.
So how would a public member obtain a report?
Again, going to the grand jury website, you would be able to find all of the reports that have been issued, and the website has reports all the way back into the 1990s or possibly the 1980s. I can't remember the exact start date. So when the reports are initially issued, they are posted on the website. And with each report, we make recommendations to specific government entities for how operations might be improved, and those government entities are required to respond to our recommendations, indicating whether they agree or disagree with our findings and what recommendations they are planning to implement. If they're not planning to implement them, why not? And so those responses then are also posted on the website along with the report so that the public can see not only what we have recommended, but how government has responded to that.
Oh, so not beholden to you to respond as you request. They just look at what you suggest and then they reply back to you as to why or why not it may be practical or
yes, that's correct. We have no enforcement authority, so really our power comes from the citizens because we're serving, as you said, as a watchdog. We're here to inform the public and then let the public make its own decisions as to whether government needs to be changed, perhaps.
Perhaps. Well, I think that's super that we have a body of our peers working on our behalf. Now, as the foreperson, what are your duties?
Well, primarily a rather administrative type of role. At the beginning of the year, I help plan and coordinate the training for the new jurors, get them into our processes and procedures. We have a formal handbook that we review and discuss that outlines our policies and procedures and how we conduct our operations. Then throughout the year, I sit as an ex officio member of all of our committees, so I spend a lot of time in committee meetings. And then I advise committee chairs and consult with them in relationship to the conduct of the investigations that their particular committees are working on. I conduct the general meeting that is held each week. And I'm also responsible for acting as the spokesperson for the jury, which is why I'm here today. And I have to sign all correspondence that leaves jury chambers.
Excellent. Now, is it possible, because I took this tour and it was just magnificent, is it possible for the public to come and see the grand jury? Because it's quite impressive, the room in which you work. It is.
Every spring we have an open house that we invite the public to. We use every means we can to get the word out, from press releases to posting notices in public places. And on that day, we do have the chambers open to the general public. We will be glad to take them on a tour of the chambers and answer any questions they have about the operations of the jury, how they might apply to be on the jury, or how they might file a complaint with the jury. And I do want to add that we have excellent chambers. The County of Ventura is extremely supportive of the grand jury system, and has provided us with very excellent working facilities.
Elegant, too.
Yes.
Just beautiful.
Yes.
If I may say so myself. And so again, can you tell us what the website is? Because I know you said Google Ventura Grand Jury, but do you know the entire website address?
That I don't have that memorized.
Oh, perhaps we have that right
but
here.
But we do have it here on the brochure.
Ventura.org/grand-jury. I highly recommend this. 805-477-1600 is the phone number.
Yes.
That's still current?
Yes, it is.
805-477-1600. Now, you were appointed by the current Superior Court judge to be the foreperson, correct?
That's correct. Just for some basic information, the initial appointment, as I think I mentioned earlier, is for a 1-year period. Near the end, and that year runs from July 1 to June 30. So near the end of that first year, we're all asked whether or not we are interested in staying over for a second year. We're referred to as the holdover group. And so then all of those first-year jurors who are planning on staying on for a second year are invited to apply to be foreperson if they would like to be. Again, we go through a screening and interviewing process, and ultimately the presiding judge and the assistant presiding judge do an interview and make the selection.
Then you have a foreperson pro temp as well.
Yes.
Is that person generally kind of looked at as potentially the next foreperson?
Well, not usually, because the foreperson pro tem will usually be, it's not required, but will usually be a holdover juror as well, someone with experience on the jury, for the simple reason that the role of the pro tem is to take over the duties of the foreperson if the foreperson is out on vacation or ill or whatever the case may be. So it needs to be someone with a little bit of experience rather than someone serving their first year.
Sure.
After the second year, we must take at least 1 full year off, and then if we're so inclined, we could apply and go through that whole screening process again and see if our name happens to get drawn.
And it's literally really pulled right out of a hat.
Absolutely. Not a hat, but a box.
A box.
It's done in the courtroom on July 1st of each year, or whatever business day is closest to July 1st.
So would you encourage our viewers to apply for the grand jury if they have time and they're interested in serving their community?
Absolutely. Not only is it a wonderful way to get to know about what's going on in local government, but it's a good way to be able to also give back to the community. We all feel like we have just learned a tremendous amount about local government, and we do that through what we refer to as agency protocol visits. We invite various county, city, and other local government officials to come to chambers and make presentations to us about the affairs in their area, about their issues and their concerns and such.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Janice Feingold, for coming to Our Ventura TV. I also want to thank George and Katrina for this awesome production. Stay tuned for more amazing information.